Hello, this is Ralph K. Ginorio, and welcome to the 19th installment of the video adaptation of my lessons on the historical background to the 9/11 terror atrocities. We have gone through the anti-Semitism that greeted Jews of the diaspora, and we have taken that story through Kristallnacht, 1938, which happened around what we Americans celebrate as Thanksgiving, the only time that Hitler engaged in a traditional Russian Cossack-style pogrom. And the German people did an unusual thing. They actually resisted it, and they opposed it enough quietly so that Hitler never tried it again. But in Mein Kampf, Hitler's book of intentions that he wrote in prison in the 1920s and that he fulfilled to the extent it was possible for him to fulfill when he became the Führer of Germany and later would-be conqueror of Europe, he made it clear that he not only wanted living space in Russia. The target of the National Socialist German Workers' Party dream, was to eliminate the largest pocket of Untermenschen on Earth. In Hitler's National Socialism, as explained by Dr. Alfred Rosenberg, who was a Nazi theorist, there is an obvious hierarchy of the races. Atop the races are the ultimate expression of human evolution, the godlike Aryans, strong-bodied, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, cream-skinned, born to rule. Almost Übermenschen, supermen, a master race. And they were clearly destined for the apex of power, the rulers of the world and of the known universe. And under them, the attendant races, semi-Nordic people, but still Aryan, and such as the Dutch, or the Scandinavians, or the Anglo-Saxons, the English. They were considered to be fallen Aryans who could be returned to the fold and taught the truth and take their rightful genetic place as members of the master race. In time. And then there were the assistant races. This almost servitor races, the Gallic French, the olive-skinned Italians, the Mediterranean Greeks. These are not real master race Aryan type folk, but you can keep them in your home as house servants, and you can use them as flunkies and functionaries in the workplace, according to Nazi thought. And then there were the slave races. The obvious first slave race is and the Celts fall into the servitor race, by the way. They have creamy skin, but they're freckled, green-eyed, and red-haired rather than cream-skinned, clear-skinned, complexioned, blonde-haired, and blue-eyed like the Aryan. So Celts are servitors. The slave races are led by the Slavs, the slave race of medieval Europe. Slavs, from Poles and Lithuanians to Russians and White Russians and Ukrainians and so forth, are also blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and square-jawed, but to the Aryans they are completely different species of people, and they exist to provide field labor. They're not really the kind of people you'd want taking care of your kids in your home. Leave that to the servitor races. And the other slave races of the world are the brown, yellow, and black peoples of Africa and Latin America and Asia. Now Hitler did make exceptions. Haj Amin al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, the leader of the Palestinians during the 1930s and 40s, was made an honorary Aryan. And those Muslims that joined him in supporting Hitler during World War II were elevated by an act of will, a triumph, if you will, of their will, above their genetic status to the status of genuine allies of the German people. And so it was also with the Japanese. They were made honorary Aryans as well, so long as they were going to be useful to the Aryan dream of conquest. So, there's a clear hierarchy of the races, from the potential Übermenschen of the master race Aryans to the Untermenschen, the subhumans under the slave races. Slave races would probably be allowed to live under the Nazi dream, but the Untermenschen are gypsies and Jews, and people who self-select themselves out of their other genetic heritages, just as some people can become honorary Aryans by being mentally defective or having disabilities of a physical or mental nature that's too profound, or by being a homosexual or a devout Christian or a Jehovah's Witness. You can take yourself out of whatever genetic status you would have had and be made into straw for the fire, Untermenschen. So the Jews were clearly the most subhuman of all to the Nazis, because the Jews, according to the Nazis and other anti-Semites, had this global conspiracy where they were able to rule history from behind the scenes. The world's Jewish population was concentrated in the Jewish Pale in Western Russia, and Hitler wanted it. When Hitler went into Poland in September of 1939, there was friction between the Wehrmacht, the regular army, and the SS, who were political soldiers of the National Socialist Party, who were separating civilians into these various racial and ethnic groups that I had just described, and establishing different destinies for them. In particular, they went after Jews. Well, the regular army was not prepared for this, and they resisted this, and there were times when regular army officers stood up to the political soldiers and made it stick. And the same thing happened when Hitler went into Norway and into France in 1940. The regular army was not on board with the political war, with the war of civilizations that Hitler had in mind. And by 1941, when Hitler had become master of Europe between Britain and Russia, as he was planning his campaign to transform the war from a war where England is the only enemy into a broader struggle against his real enemy, which were the Jews, as Hitler was contemplating all of this, he had to plan how was it that he was going to get the Germans, who are sort of innocent lunkheads as far as he's concerned, on board with his plan for the extermination of entire races of people. Can't do it with pogroms. Can't do it with the regular army unless you change the regular army. And the story of how Hitler does this will be told next time. Thank you for your attention.